Hello and welcome back everybody to the Food Build Factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Dark Enforcer. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment and everything else. So let's get right into it. What this character is going to be about is, at fast value, we're basically going to just play a melee build in power armor. With some quirks though. Most importantly, we are going to take a look at one of the newest weapons in the game, which is the electric enforcer. One of the alien weapons. Basically this sci-fi club, if you want to call it that. Um, as with all of the alien weapons, there are quite a few different versions that quite heavily change the visuals of the weapon. So we could have gone for the overcharged version, which is probably the best one, just in terms of bang for your buck. In terms of actual damage output, it gives you a little bit more um, energy damage and everything. But I went with the spiked one, which does a little bit less damage than the overcharged version, but you can actually increase your armor penetration. I don't really think that's all that necessary on a melee weapon, quite simply because you already have incisors, so your armor penetration with these kind of weapons is pretty insane anyways. But it was very much a visual decision. I really like the spiked version because it has spikes, which makes sense. And the red glow is also pretty cool. My favorite overall would probably be the poison version. Anyhow, it's not that great and doesn't really work together all that well with the build I had in mind here, because one other thing I wanted to take a look at here is we had a bug in the game, which I wasn't even aware of, to be honest, and that is that you do have optimized bracers for your power armor. It's a modification that reduces the amount of action point consumption from heavy attacks. And yeah, apparently they didn't stack previously. So nowadays, with the same update that the aliens came, we can actually do that. We can stack them, making it even more viable to power attack. And that gave me the chance to revisit a kind of build that I really enjoyed in the past, which is a unlimited power attack melee guy. Obviously melee guy because yeah, with ranged weapons you will have a hard time power attacking, but I think you get the point here. And I'm not really going to show that off here because with single targets, smaller targets like these settlers and raiders here, it's not going to be all that interesting. But yeah, we will see that in effect, especially when we're fighting the Scorched Beast in a few seconds. So we basically, due to a combination of enough action points and enough action point refresh, combined with that power attack cost reduction, we can basically power attack limitless without ever doing a break. We're actually, even if we're standing still and power attacking like all the time, we actually regenerate action points in the meantime. And it's not even that hard to do nowadays with this kind of setup. I have done this before, um, quite a long time before actually. And yeah, it was one of my favorite ways to play the game. It looks a bit dull, probably, if you're watching it, for the simple reason that your attack pattern is very, well, one-sided. You're always doing those power attacks. But trust me when I say it doesn't feel all that jarring. It's actually quite good. So one other thing you saw me do there is basically what I am doing is I do carry a small pump action shotgun, just for utility value. It's basically here for what I'm doing at the moment, crippling our Scorch Beast here. Should be enough now. I don't really check, to be honest. Let's just get some more adrenaline going on here. Let's just kill these guys before they intervene. And now we can actually go on to the Scorch Beast. It's a little bit all over the place at the moment. Sorry for that, but you know the thrill. When you're fighting a Scorch Beast, there's a lot going on here. Okay, maybe we should just get rid of these guys in the meantime. No problem whatsoever. And you can see there, if we're getting shots in, or hits in on the Scorch Beast, it's not a big deal at all. So probably I didn't cripple it well enough earlier with the Enforcer perk, which also fits rather well, giving the name of the character. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the score speed should go down pretty soon. It's a little bit of a shame because, to be honest, it's one or two more hits before it is down, but there it is going to land, I guess. And yeah, that's going to be its end. This kind of technique of carrying a shotgun around and using the Enforcer perk is something I have said times and times again. If you're doing a melee build, having trouble with certain enemies, it's not only Scorch Beast, it's the most uh, intuitive with Scorch Beasts because you can force them to land, but it also works great on stuff like Death Claws or Behemoths if you have problem with them. Just take out their legs and then with a few shots, talking about 4 to 5 shots probably, and then yeah, take out your melee weapon and finish them off. So yeah, overall the combination of shotguns and melee has always worked rather well for me. But yeah, obviously the main weapon here is our electric enforcer, and it deals great damage. Obviously, once adrenaline is going and everything, it's going to be a little better. But I think you saw that during the Scourge Beast fight. Yeah, the main thing is we can use this thing to power attack all of the time and actually regenerate action points in the meantime, because the cost is relatively low to power attack with this weapon due to our 2 optimized bracers. I'm not aware of the numbers, to be honest, but if I had to take a guess, I would say it's like 10 to 15% reduction in cost per arm, I guess. As I said, take that with a grain of salt, though. I don't know actually. And yeah, overall, power attacking is the way to go, in my opinion, on a lot of situations. Now, is it better than just going for a swing speed version of the weapon and just go all in? Probably not in terms of like true damage output. You're probably better off just using more swing speed. But on this occasion, as I said, we focused heavily on power attacking, and it's a lot of fun in my eyes, and really fits rather well with a two-handed weapon like this. It appears one-handed in third person, that's because we are in power armor, but yeah, it's a slugger weapon, just so you know. We don't have a ton of investment into damage. We have the necessary ones, Martial Artist and Incisor namely, but what I don't have actually on this occasion is more than 1 rank of slugger, so that's something to be aware of. You could definitely invest a little bit more into it. What I personally do like and do have on this character here is Pain Train, which is fun, I guess. Like for some ghouls and everything, you can take them down relatively reliably, smaller enemies. So I like it. I enjoy using Pain Train, but that's personal preference. So you could very easily just invest those 3 perk points the into our weapon here and have a good time. Sorry. And yeah, another thing I mentioned earlier is using this shotgun here for convenience. It's not only that we can cripple enemies very fast, it's also that we are using a vampire's version of the weapon, and therefore, yeah, we don't have to carry around healing items, actually. I mean, I do have some stimpaks on me, and it's always nice to have them. I mean, I would always advise you to use or have like 10 or so on you, just in case everything goes down the drain and you don't really have the time to... Okay, that's interesting. Let's see if we can glitch out of the map. Okay, I think we can leave that guy there. I think you can imagine how that fight would have went now. A little bit buggy at the moment. So let's just fast travel and take on some super mutants. Yeah, some stimpaks, always nice to have. We also have some investment into making them more useful, just because, yeah, that's our emergency option. But for the most part, if you're fighting, just want to get some HP back, you just whip out your shotgun and basically, yeah, you can heal yourself off completely with 1 or 2 shots most of the times. So yeah, that's another big use here. The reason I came to do that was that, yeah, as I said, I wanted to have a shotgun on me for Enforcer anyway, and since the shotgun was obviously not going to be a damage option, because if you want to use shotguns as a damage option, your whole approach would be very different. I thought, well, if we're not going to look for any damage increase anyways, then why not go for something very utilitarian, which in terms of a shotgun, yeah, vampires is hard to beat. So yeah, that's that. In terms of third person, first person, sometimes I address it, sometimes I don't in my videos. On this occasion, it's one of those builds where I really wanted to switch depending on the situation. Um, Wide open fields, it can be interesting to play in third person, but overall I probably enjoy this build more in first person, just because, yeah, you can actually aim for the heads of the enemies relatively reliably, which is not necessary when it comes to ghouls or so, but once we're fighting super mutants, it actually can make quite a difference. Another big thing that I wanted to address when it came to Pain Train is it synergizes very well with the kind of build we're going for here, that we want to do a lot of power attacks, because oftentimes we can open a fight by running into an enemy, timing it right, so we do a power attack at the same time, and we can actually get both benefits of the power attack as well as Pain Train. On this occasion it didn't really work, this time around it probably did, but yeah, that means you can often one-shot enemies that otherwise you couldn't. Can even happen with level 100 super mutants, pretty sure at least. Yeah, I think I remember that it worked that way. But anyways, one or two hits, enough for pretty much everything. Now, obviously, we are still talking about a melee build, so it's not going to be a endgame meta build where you can solo the Scorch Beast Queen. I mean, you probably can even with this build, but I wouldn't advise it. Probably not the most fun time. So on this occasion, just get some healing, so we can start off with a full HP bar, and yeah, that's basically it. In terms of the shotgun, obviously something like a pepper shaker or a combat shotgun would have worked even better for our means, just because the reload is faster and it, yeah, magazine size is faster. The pump action shotgun isn't really the best choice here. It's sadly never the best choice, to be honest. But in terms of visuals, that's why I decided to go for it again. And yeah, really, once you're talking about a utility option of a weapon, it doesn't really matter. All we matter for is the class here. So yeah, just to show you, we are at 4 shots, and we actually reload very fast on the weapon without even using how's it called, the shotgun perk that increases your reload speed. I don't know from the top of my head, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's just because we're using a faster fire rate, faster reload version of the weapon, in combination with the hair trigger receiver. So that's how we get that very fast AP refresh, not AP refresh, fast reload. And yeah, as I thought, the depth claw wasn't really a problem here. So all that's left is to fight some of these super mutants again. Not really a change in tactics here. Sometimes I use these 2 different super mutant encampments in order to show off one weapon than the other, but yeah, really, as I said, the shotgun we are carrying is not a damage option. It's really just utilitarian, and we're probably not going to use it again. Maybe after this fight is over. This one here took a while, just out of interest. Well, Zealot's combat rifle, not all that great, to be honest. Let's see that guy over here. We're far from needing a heal from our shotgun, by the way. We obviously, since we are in power armor, we do have electric absorption, which means that we don't really have to care when fighting super mutants most of the times anyway, just because the occasional laser rifle shot that hits us will be enough to keep us at full health. Maybe not full health, but at high health. So yeah, nothing to worry here. So I'm not sure, we should still be at good adrenaline, so that might be a bit more efficient for us here. But other than that, yeah, the occasional one shot here, one hit. Sorry, I'm repeatedly calling these one shots despite them not being shots, but I think I'm not the only one who this happens to, right? I can remember that a lot of other YouTubers make that mistake from time to time. So, not sure what's up with this guy. I thought I killed him, but in the heat of battle, sometimes you miss some stuff. And yeah, overall, not a lot to say. I think it speaks for itself. I really like the visuals of this build. You can easily make it a enclave build or something like that. I think that would work rather well. Also with that advanced alien technology thing, where they basically taken over that technology, maybe. But yeah, pretty much straightforward brawler type of character, really close combat melee build. Well, not sure what to say here. It's very decent. It's aggressively solid in my eyes. It's not super great, but survivability is great with this build. I never had to worry. You can basically take on pretty much every single enemy in the game without ever having to stress yourself or anything. So yeah, I really like it. Worked out really well. Obviously, the electric enforcer is not the best weapon in the game, but I think it is a very decent one, and I enjoyed playing with it a lot. And yeah, that being said, we're now going to take a look at the more in-depth stuff about the build, starting off with mutations. So here they are. Sorry. Here they are. You see, for a melee build, we're not having all that much in terms of mutations. Oftentimes there's more, but on this occasion I only went with Marsupial, Scaly Skin, Speed Demon, Twisted Muscles, and Unstable Isotope. So Marsupial and Speed Demon, these are pretty much straightforward. They increase our movability, if movability is a word. But yeah, higher jump heights, faster movement speed. The reload speed is also really nice for our shotgun, but it wouldn't be necessary. Basically, we want to be able to move around quicker, so yeah, that's why they are there. Then we do have Scaly Skin. This gives us a little bit of extra energy and damage resistance. Now, we are in power armor already, so this is a drop on the hot stone, but on the other side, it's minus 12 AP with our class 3 perk, so it's really not anything to worry about, to be honest. We only need action points to sprint, basically, because, as I said, the build is centered around the idea of refreshing more action points than uh, using in combat. So the amount of action points is actually not all that important for to us. Then we do have Twisted Muscles. This one is a bit more straightforward, extra melee damage and a chance to cripple. Yeah, we want to have that. I mean, gun accuracy going down is potentially a bit of a problem when it comes to our sidearm, but it only really matters at longer ranges where it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. We're not trying to do a lot of damage. We do have some perks that increase our accuracy with our weapon, but that just makes it a little bit easier to target specific limbs. And you saw it. Overall, yeah, we're still doing great with the weapon. Great enough, at least, to cripple enemies. That's all we use it for, and heal ourselves. And lastly, we do have Unstable Isotope. I think I haven't seen it go off in ages, I feel like, but yeah, it has a chance to give you this little mushroom cloud when you're attacked by a melee enemy. Yeah, it's just a little fun nod, to be honest. It's nothing game breaking to be for us. And yeah, when it comes to the other buffs, we are on the casual team. That's because I wanted to use a legendary perk that I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, that's why we are in a team for once. Very rarely does it happen. It's just so we can get our legendary perk, taking one for the team, active. And then we do have a targeting matrix for our power armor helmet. This was just a leftover because I already had the power armor. And it's not necessary, obviously. We're not using VATS accuracy for anything, so yeah. But on the other side, there wasn't a particular head modification, sorry, helmet modification for the power armor that I was interested in, so just in case you were wondering about that. In terms of special, you can see we don't have a lot of strength for a strength focused build. I mean, we have max strength on paper here, but you get the point. A lot of strength builds really go above and beyond, trying to reach like 30 or upwards of 30 strength in order to increase their damage. Something you can obviously try to here if you can incorporate the builds and sorry, the perks or the um, legendary pieces and everything. But I didn't really bother. felt it was enough on this occasion, but keep in mind there's room for improvement. And yeah, that being said, I think we're now going to take a look at our equipment here, starting off with our aristocrats electric enforcer. Sorry, electro enforcer. I always said electric. Yeah, damage increase with cap increase. I think 28k you are at max, but I'm not quite sure. I went slightly above 30k for this build, so we can definitely see it at full effectiveness here. Um, Increased power attack damage and less damage while power attacking. Obviously, the last two ones synergize very well with each other because once we're fighting tougher enemies, we want to exclusively use power attacks on our targets, and that means that for the whole duration when we are using these power attacks, we do get less damage, which is quite huge. I mean, it's often overlooked because it's not the shiniest effect in the game, taking less damage while power attacking, I mean. But if you are using the weapon in the right way, it can actually be pretty powerful in my eyes, so I liked it a lot. And in terms of the first effect we went for here, aristocrats, yeah, it's straightforward. I just wanted to have a damage buff other than anti-armor or junkies or so. And I think I never really shown off aristocrats on a melee weapon before. And I think for melee weapons it's actually especially good because you don't have all that good of an option. I mean, you do have bloodied. I always have to mention that, but you get the point. This channel is focused around stuff that's not bloodied. So yeah, if you're not want to go bloodied, there's not a whole lot of options for melee weapons because on other weapons you basically go for anti-armor and that's it. But when it comes to melee weapons, anti-armor is not the greatest effect. I mean, it is one of the better ones, but it's not as effective as it is on a lot of other weapons just because Incisor is so good already. So yeah, I think if you can keep your caps up, probably Aristocrats is the best effect for melee weapons other than Bloodied in my eyes. But anyways, all of that together brings our damage to 103 physical and 110 energy damage. So yeah, pretty straightforward here. There's not a lot to talk about. One important thing is the moment you're not using power attack damage, but using faster swing speed on this weapon, the whole premise of the build doesn't work anymore, where you can regenerate action points while doing power attacks all of the time. The damage output will go up probably, but whenever you're consuming action points, once you're finished, it takes like 1 or 2 seconds before you start regenerating again. That's just latency or something, I guess, or maybe it's a function, I don't know. But when, if you increase your swing speed further, you will just start to your next attack before your refresh could have even started, and that's the problem here. So you want to limit yourself in terms of swing speed, basically. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah, in terms of the secondary weapon, we have the station pump here, aka the pump action shotgun, aka the vampire's faster fire rate, faster reload pump action shotgun. It's just a skin, and yeah, whenever you put the skin on the weapon, it's automatically called a station pump. I'm pretty sure I could rename it, but I didn't really bother. It's a pump action shotgun, trust me here, but I think you can see the pump action core somewhere in there. I went with the station pump skin because I loved the skin the day I bought it, but I never really got use out of it because it does look goofy, I admit. But yeah, it works relatively well with the completely black power armor combined with a few red highlights. So yeah, that's why I decided to go for it. Same with the modifications. We made the whole weapon very short, just because in terms of combat this wouldn't be a good decision. But we don't really need any modifications here. Um, so yeah, I went with hair trigger. That's just so we can reload and shoot faster, combined with faster fire rate and faster reload. Obviously, that synergizes very well. So we can just spray out a lot of shotgun shells, basically. Then we do with a true short barrel, just to increase our hipfire accuracy a little bit and the bruising stock, in order to give this thing some more uh, durability. And that's it. More you cannot even do. It's enough, you know. Like it's not. a good combination of modifications here at all. But yeah, as I said, we're just using this thing to cripple, and therefore we can go for more of a function in my eyes. So that being said, we're now going over to our power armor, and one thing you can see here is that we went for a full set of aristocrats armor, which yet again, similar to scaly skin, it's not the most sensible decision just because we are in power armor already. We do have very high resistances already, but on the other side, we went from like 400 to 600 with resistances with the combination of the aristocrats armor set combined with the scaly skin. So while it doesn't increase your resistance as much as it would from 0 to 200, still it's such an increase that you do notice it a little bit. And to be honest, I just didn't really know what else to go for because the only thing I wanted here is two pieces of AP refresh, so two pieces of powered armor. That was the sweet spot. I tried to use the exact same build with one piece of powered armor, powered power armor, by the way, but that wasn't quite enough to get my action point refresh faster than the consumption by power attacks. So two pieces were necessary, and yeah, we do have Action Boy, but I think that's it. So you could definitely swap around some perks. You could use Lone Wanderer instead of going for a team build, and that could probably be enough so that one piece of powered gear would be enough in order to do what we're doing here, but I think you get the point. Obviously, in terms of the arms, we do have the optimized bracers modification on both of them. Um, yeah, the whole armor is modified with this um, blackbird paint, except for the helmet, which has the black rider paint, which I really like. It just looks like you have a hood over your power armor. It's one of the aesthetically most pleasing power armors that Bethesda has implemented so far, I guess. At least in my eyes, obviously, yeah, that's objective. But yeah, that was it in terms of apparel. Sorry, not apparel, equipment. I think you get the point. And all that's left now are the perks. So just rearrange them a little bit so it's not that big of a mess here. Starting off with strength, this is the perk tree where a lot's going on. We do have Pain Train. I already talked about that. It's a personal preference. I did like it just because it gave me a little bit more variety in my attacks. Just because smaller enemies, I can actually include my sprint attack into. And oftentimes, when you're running into enemies and timing it correctly so that you attack at the same time, you can combine the damage of Pain Train with the damage of a power attack. Then we do have Blocker, just such a good defensive perk, and especially on a melee build, you really have two options. Either you go all in with damage and assure that everything within melee range is dead before you can be attacked. But on this occasion, yeah, Blocker was the more sensible decision, I guess. So, yeah, we just take less damage from melee opponents. Then we do have the two most important perks for a melee build in my eyes, which are Incisor and Martial Artist. So Martial Artist just increases your swing speed by the 30%, just more DPS. And while I said earlier that better swing speed on the weapon would basically break the way the build works together here, Martial Artist still is okay. So that's the sweet spot in terms of extra swing speed with this weapon, but not too much swing speed, if you can. I think you get the point. Incisor, obviously, yeah, the increased amount of armor penetration just will overall lead to more damage than every slugger perk could ever do. So therefore, yeah, Incisor is here. And lastly, we filled up with rank 1 of each of the slugger perks for 10% additive increase in damage. So these aren't too crazy. I think we can just take a look at it real quick. So what we are having now is 93 and 95 rather than 100 and okay, I'm not sure. Sorry, 105 and 110, I think it was. No, 103 and 110. So you see the damage increase isn't crazy, but for 3 perk points, you can obviously go for whatever you like. But having some slugger perks here doesn't hurt, I guess. Then we do have Perception at rank 3, Skeet Shooter. Well, this is rather straightforward. Yeah, it reduces the spread of our shotgun a little bit and makes it easier to cripple specific limbs of targets. You can definitely live without it, but I still enjoyed having it here, so that's why it's there. Then we do have endurance at 7 with a combination that I always go for if I'm wanna have a little bit endurance at least, but am not quite sure or don't really need something specific for the build. So fireproof I think doesn't need an introduction. It's not as effective as it once was, but still a very good decision I guess. And lastly we do have life giver, just increasing your overall amount of hit points. Yet again, something people often say is not worth it because it's a lot of investment for just a few more perk points, sorry, hit points, and there's other options that are good. That's true, but I like it. It's just solid. Then we do have charisma, and it's at 6, which is a little bit higher than usual. I mean, tenderizer is there as always. It's good. It's not exceedingly good on this occasion, but it's good. 10% extra damage after the first hit, quite nice. We are meant to often one-shot stuff, but the moment we need a damage buff is especially once we don't one-shot stuff, so therefore Tenderizer is still pretty good. Then we do have strange numbers because as a rare on a rare occasion we actually are not meant to play the solo just because we want to make use of the damage buff from taking one for the team. We are relatively tanky, so we can afford to take the aggro on us and basically increase our damage output that way. So yeah, strange numbers. Pretty much every single team you will be on will have mutations and make your mutations better. And yeah, that includes twisted muscles. So it's basically just more damage. And lastly, we do a field surgeon. Now, this is definitely not necessary, but you will see when we go over to intelligence that we do have first aid here, and the combination of these two makes it so that the few stimpaks we do carry around with us are actually really effective, and that means in situations where let me explain it that way. The thing is, this build is pretty tanky, and in addition to that, you don't really need to worry too much because you can just swap to your secondary weapon to your shotgun and heal yourself with that. But all of that leads to a situation where you condition yourself to not look for your health anymore because you just rarely see it. Meaning, if you recognize that your health is pretty low, it will be pretty bad, pretty late. So you are in a pretty bad situation, and the combination of first aid and field surgeon just makes it so whenever you recognize you are in trouble, your stimpak will be enough to save your ass, basically. Then we do have power user. That's pretty straightforward. We're not burning through an excessive amount of fusion cores without it, but still it makes it easier and probably makes it so that, yeah, carrying 2 fusion cores will mostly be enough. Keep in mind we do recharge them from time to time with the electric absorption perk, so you can really, really go low on your amount of fusion cores that you're carrying around. Then we do have Makeshift Warrior, pretty straightforward, makes it so our weapon doesn't break all that fast, and that's basically it. And lastly, we do have batteries included because, yeah, of course we do. I mean, you don't need it because, as I just said, if you use Power User, you don't have to carry more than 2, maybe 3 fusion cores, which won't weigh you down all that much. On my occasion, though, I do have a lot of them on me, and therefore, yeah, I wanted to uh, keep batteries included just so I don't carry like 100 pounds of fusion cores with me. But yeah, that's your decision. You can also go for the Gauss shotgun basically to cripple enemies, and use that and make use out of batteries included, so that you can reduce the amount of weight that you have to carry around for your 2 millimeter electrical cartridges. Sorry, but yeah, we can live with batteries included here, I guess. And then we do have agility, which is at 11. We do have Action Boy and Forza and Adrenaline. So 11 is like the sweet spot I found here. You see, action point refresh in this game is percentage based of your total amount of action points, meaning that The higher your agility, the higher your action point refresh is on paper. So it's a combination of actually the action point refresh itself and your total amount of action points. And that meant I wanted to have at least a little bit of agility going on. And for me, like the combination of 11 agility, action boy, and 2 pieces of powered gear made it enough so we can do our build here. As I said, this will vary from person to person, slight variations here and there in different weapons, um, different effects, different agility, different under armor. If you're no in under armor, forget under armor. Anyways, yeah, 11 agility it is. Sorry, and we do have action boy here, which is pretty self-explanatory. Then we do have Enforcer. Yet again, I talked about that. This basically makes it so we can carry around our shotgun as a secondary weapon and make a good utility version out of it, just because the crippling effect is so good that we can basically take out any enemy that doesn't have a ranged attack within 2 or 3 shots and make it and immobilize it. Then we do have adrenaline because it's always a good pick in my eyes, and on this occasion especially because we wanted to have, as I just said, some agility, and we had to fill that some way. And there actually isn't a ton of useful perks in agility when it comes to a power armor melee build, so adrenaline was a very obvious pick here. And lastly, we do have luck, which is relatively high for a non VATS build, but on the other side, luck is filled with good perks to use, so therefore, yeah. The mandatory one is Starch Genes. Obviously, you want to keep our mutations, not get any new ones. On this occasion, I went with Class Freak. Now, it wouldn't really be the end of the world to use this build without Class Freak, given our mutations aren't too drastic. But I know a lot of people just want to go haywire on their mutations and want to use other stuff. And therefore, yeah, Class 3 probably not a bad decision. It's never a bad decision, and we actually have room for it, so therefore it's here. Then we have Ricochet, just overall increasing our survivability a little bit, especially once we are handing our pump action shotgun with the Vampire's effect, where Ricochet, when it procs, can heal us as well. So, yeah, was a pretty early decision in this build for me to use Ricochet. I just like the perk when I am in power armor, especially. And lastly, we do have Bloody Mass, which is a little bit, yet again, drop on a hot stone. Doesn't really do a whole lot of damage increase, but it's a little bit, so might as well take it. And that meant we are left with our legendary perks here. So here you can see we do have legendary intelligence maxed out. We do have legendary luck and strength at rank 3. So legendary intelligence and luck, those give us access to more perk points. Legendary strength uh, is also nice for a melee build here. And then we do have electric absorption. Already talked about that. It's pretty much in every single build of mine that uses power armor. So you don't really have to worry all that much about healing yourself and everything. It's really, yeah, the fusion core thing is nice, but the main selling point here is when enemies hit you with an energy weapon, they have a chance to heal you, basically making enemies like Assaultrons a joke. They can still kill you, obviously, if they use their melee attacks and everything, but overall they're more healing you than they are damaging you. Then we do have taking one for the team, so once an enemy attacks you, you do 40% more damage. Should still be multiplicative as far as I know, so one of the biggest buffs in the game that you can actually have, and meaning even if you are playing alone, you just want to be in a team. For this perk to be active, you don't need teammates, you just want to be in a public team at all times, and yeah, helps especially when it comes to stuff like the Scorch Beast we fought earlier, or fighting a behemoth or something. So yeah, that's nice to have. And lastly, we do have power sprinter, making it so that sprinting in power armor consumes 40% less action points. Um, I mean, there's probably better options here. You can always find something that suits you more well, but I just wanted to have power sprinter here because, yeah, of pain train. I really like to start off a fight by sprinting into an enemy and hitting it, or even within fights, I often sprint from enemy to enemy. That's personal preference, I guess. I know a lot of people don't really do that. They just, once they're in combat, they just whack left and right. But yeah, I certainly like it, and yeah, that's why it's here. So, long story short, this was the build. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Sorry for the long absence. Really, am pretty hard on at work lately. So yeah, I don't have a lot of time, but I'm still enjoying it. No worries here. The occasional build will roll out, and here we have another look at it, the Dark Enforcer. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye.